Welcome back. Today we are building a manual conversion kit for the 430 Scuderia. So step one is to clean and prep the area that we're going to build the kit. So these are the only tools required to build the external shift box, so we're going to show you how that's done. Now that we've pressed in the GE8C bearing, if you can see, there's a lot of play in it still. So we have to address this so that there's absolutely zero tolerance. So now that we've got all these bearings in, we're going to go ahead and test fit everything into the box and make sure that it all is nice and square. So you can see with these friction bearings, this slides very nicely forward and backward, left and right. And so you can see down in here, as I spin this, you can see that there's a divot for the bolt to go through, and this will clamp down onto the shift rod so that I'll control the left and right movement. So now it's time for final assembly. You can see me greasing this up, clamping it down in the vise, and now we punch through the shift rod. Okay, so now that the shift rod is in, we are assembling the spring retainer, and this helps with the feel of the shifter as well as keeping it centered. So now it's time for the cables. So when we stock these parts, we leave the holes just a little bit small on purpose, because this piece here and this piece here, they have to fit perfectly inside the box. So each kit, we run the shift box back in the machine to make sure both of these parts fit perfect. So we've got these spring anchors here. We're gonna cut these down so they can fit inside of the box so that the springs can attach on either side, and that helps with the self-centering. So anytime I'm cutting threads, I always make sure that I thread a nut onto the end, onto the side that's gonna stay, so that after the threads are cut, I can back this nut out, and that helps me make sure that the threads stay true. So now that the box is out of the machine and everything fits, the next step is to get these two parts to slip fit into the fulcrum here. And in order to do that, we're gonna put this piece on the lathe and sand it down that way. Safety first. So what we're gonna do is sand it a little bit and then check it, sand it and check it until it's perfect. We are now greasing up the slip fit bearings for the fulcrum to sit inside of, and this will make sure that it rotates freely left and right. Now once that's installed, we slip over the guide for the reverse on the shift rod. So once we have the shift rod ready to go in the box, the next step is to insert the self-centering guide along with the spring, the washer, and the retaining clip. So this all gets pressed in and clipped down so that it can't go anywhere. The last step in assembling the box is going to be both supports front and back. There's quite a bit of bolts that go in on each side, so electric tools are definitely helpful once they're threaded. I am now installing the reverse pushdown spring. And the box standoffs for the reverse lockout plate. And once that's all installed, the gate goes on top, and wow, look how beautiful that is. And the final step for this box is to unwrap and screw on the shift ball. So we just finished building the shift box. Now we're gonna move on to the brake master cylinder. So we use Wilwood master cylinders. So the way these master cylinders come, they actually don't fit directly up to the car, so there is some modification that we do. You can see me pulling off the rubber boot and pulling apart the front of the master. The first part of the modification is we have to drill the center out 35 millimeters so that it can fit through the firewall. So we're now drilling out where the clutch line actually connects, and then also the mounting holes, so you have a little bit of adjustment when you have the master inside of the car. So our masters come pre-assembled and pre-torqued, so all you have to do is stab it in the car, bleed it, and you're good to go. So we've got all the hardware now for the kit. Clutch line, hardware. So I'm now installing the 4AN adapter, the 90 degree, the banjo bolt for the clutch line, the actual clutch line, and the fluid reservoir hose. And this does share the fluid reservoir inside the car with the brakes. Lastly, we put the clutch fork on that'll connect with the pedal. Now we have all the linkage components for the external shift box. Each one of these parts, other than the bearings, are manufactured by us in-house, and you can see us assembling each part held by a retaining clip. The reason for these parts is so that when the cables push and pull, it reflects as forward and backward and left and right movement respectively. So here I am now pressing the bearings into both of the swing arms, So one of these controls the forward and backward movement of the internal box by the push-pull cables, and the other one controls the left and right movement of the internal box by the push-pull cables. Here I am assembling the very last piece of the linkage, held in by another retaining clip. Now this box is good to be installed into a car. And that's a wrap. We hope you enjoyed today's video on how to assemble the manual conversion kit for the 430 Scuderias. Stay tuned because our next video is going to show us installing this into the car.